Close your eyes and imagine a land of misty highlands, jagged cliffs, and deep blue lochs. This is Scotland, a land steeped in history and legend, where ancient battles and resilient people forged a unique identity. But how did Scotland, with its sweeping landscapes and indomitable spirit, come to be? Today we'll delve into the historical tapestry of this fascinating nation. Our journey begins in prehistory, tens of thousands of years ago. The first human footprints in Scotland appeared at the end of the last ice age, around 12,000 years ago. These early inhabitants lived as hunter-gatherers, surviving in a harsh and untamed environment. By about 3000 BCE, they began to form more stable communities. Evidence of this ancient world can still be seen at places like Skara Brae in Orkney, a remarkably preserved Neolithic village that predates both Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids. Fast forward a few millennia, and we find the Celts, the architects of much of Scotland's early cultural identity. Arriving around 500 BCE, the Celts brought with them their language, traditions, and art. Their tribal societies dotted the Scottish landscape, and their influence is still heard today in the Gaelic language and seen in traditional Celtic knot designs. But Scotland's early tribes were not left in peace for long. In the 1st century CE, the Roman Empire came knocking. The Romans, led by Emperor Agricola, ventured into Scotland, then known as Caledonia. Here they encountered fierce resistance from local tribes like the Picts, whom they described as painted warriors. The Romans built forts and the famous Hadrian's Wall to mark the northern edge of their empire, but they never fully subdued the fierce inhabitants of Scotland. That resilience began to form the backbone of the Scottish spirit. By the early Middle Ages, Scotland was a patchwork of kingdoms. The Picts ruled in the north, while the Scots, a Gaelic-speaking people from Ireland, settled in the west, founding the Kingdom of Dalriada. Over time, these groups unified, and by the 9th century, a remarkable figure emerged, Kenneth MacAlpin. Known as the first King of Scots, MacAlpin united the Picts and Scots under a single crown, laying the foundation for the Kingdom of Scotland. But unity didn't guarantee peace. By the late 13th century, Scotland faced one of its greatest threats yet, the English crown. King Edward I of England sought to dominate Scotland, sparking a period of intense conflict now known as the Wars of Independence. This was the era of William Wallace, a name etched in Scottish history. Wallace's victory at the Battle of Stirling Bridge in 1297 became a rallying cry for Scottish freedom. And though Wallace's life ended in tragedy, his legend lived on. Another hero rose from the ashes of this struggle, Robert the Bruce. In 1314, at the Battle of Bannockburn, Bruce's forces achieved a decisive victory against the English. This triumph solidified Scotland's independence, and Robert the Bruce became a symbol of courage and determination. Decades later, the Declaration of Arbroath, a letter to the Pope, asserted Scotland's right to remain a free and independent nation. It famously declared, "As long as but 100 of us remain alive, never will we on any conditions be brought under English rule." But Scotland's story didn't end there. The centuries that followed were marked by alliances, intrigues, and challenges. The union of the Scottish and English crowns came in 1603 when James VI of Scotland inherited the English throne, becoming James I of England. This period, known as the Union of the Crowns, did not erase Scotland's distinct identity, but it did usher in a complex era of shared rule. By the 18th century, however, tensions flared again. The Jacobite uprisings, a series of rebellions aimed at restoring the Stuart monarchy, culminated in the devastating Battle of Culloden in 1746. It was a crushing defeat for the Highland clans, and the British government imposed harsh measures to suppress Scottish culture. Tartans, Gaelic, and clan gatherings were outlawed as part of efforts to integrate Scotland into a more centralized British identity. Yet, despite these hardships, Scotland's spirit endured. The 19th and 20th centuries saw Scotland become a center of innovation during the Industrial Revolution, contributing to fields as diverse as engineering, literature, and medicine. Figures like Robert Burns, Sir Walter Scott, and Alexander Graham Bell carried Scotland's legacy to the world. Today, Scotland is a nation proud of its heritage, blending the traditions of the past with the dynamism of the modern era. It maintains its own legal and education systems and has a devolved parliament. The question of independence is still alive in public debate, showing that the desire for self-determination runs deep in the Scottish soul. From the ancient stones of Skara Brae to the resolute cry of Bannockburn, from the poetry of Robert Burns to the bustling city streets of Edinburgh and Glasgow, Scotland's history is a story of resilience, creativity, and fierce pride. And as you walk its misty glens and historic castles, you can't help but feel the echoes of the past, whispering that this land, once fought for so fiercely, has truly earned its place in the annals of history.